Hello there folks, so we're doing something today we haven't done for quite a while. I'm doing a react video to a Linus Tech Tips video that came out on the 27th of December last year, where they build the ultimate sim rig setup. Now before we start, I have to give the channel credit. They are trying to do a bit more of this sim racing stuff, which is great, shining a bit more of a light on the hobby. And like they seem to be getting some decent advice. So this particular scene we're opening on is just a short way into the video, and they've sort of got all the gear laid out on the table, and right off the bat we can see quite a few signs that there is someone doing their homework. Now obviously within the hardcore sim racing crowd there's always going to be argument about Fnatic. It's reached critical mass where they are selling products from the mid all the way to the top end of town, and being one of the leading brands in terms of public exposure, in terms of popularity, they're always going to start attracting that flack that you get being one of the big names in any space. And so certainly straight away, if you go into the comments, you're going to find the purists who are going, should have bought Simucube, should have bought Leo Bodnar, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to try to avoid getting into that beyond this little intro spiel here. When you're buying at the top end of town, yes, there are definitely alternatives to Fnatic, and just as you get with any top end of town argument, you're going to have acolytes on both sides. And declaring my biases here, I went with the Fnatic DD2, which you're going to see in this video, and the reasons I went for it are, first of all, it is cheaper to get wheels for a Fnatic system than to get genuine race hardware. You're looking at $1,000 plus for just a wheel when you go to real race built stuff, or you're starting to deal with really boutique hand built stuff. And I'd rather just get off the shelf, and that's my tendency there. That's my preference. The other thing too is that there is no way to mount Simucube and stuff like that on a desk that I've seen, whereas Fnatic you genuinely can mount on a desk with the Club Sport table clamp, and ignore anyone who tells you otherwise. You can do it. I have done it. The main factor in whether you can clamp a direct drive unit to a desk or not is the clamp. I mean, of course, if your desk is a couple of millimeters thick and cheap garbage, that might cause a problem. You might have some vibration. It might fall apart. If there's movement of the wood itself, that might make your whole setup unstable. So you obviously want a reasonable thickness of desk. But to be fair, you can always go down to your local hardware store, get a piece of timber and buttress it to make it more rigid. So desk racing with a DD wheel is very much a real thing, provided you use the right hardware. Now, below 10 Newton meters, the plastic clamp that Fnatic do for the CSL DD seems to work okay, but realistically, I would say to anyone, if you buy the Club Sport table clamp, that thing is rock solid. It's built out of steel. It'll hold anything. So that was why I went Fnatic for my setup. I have no regrets about it. I'm very, very happy. And I think in the case of Linus, why they went that way, because Fnatic is the most visible of high-end race sim hardware. Now, they have done their homework though. If you look just past Linus's hand here, you can see that he's got Heusinkfeld pedals, and those are the top end of town as far as pedal equipment goes. In terms of their motion platform and their rig, they've gone very well with all that. But yeah, Linus tends to go with name brand hardware. That's the kind of channel he operates. And again, once you get to that end of 10, you're going to get arguments. But anyway, enough blather. Let's get into it. Let's react to stuff. I'll be jumping through some of the sponsor bits and all that sort of stuff just to get us to the meat. And please respond in the comments. Give me your thoughts.
These are the pedals and handbrake. This is a part of the wheel?
What do you mean a wheel? The wheel's here.
No, well,
Why do we need 4 steering wheels?
why not? And
Okay. Good question Linus just asked there. Why do you need 4 steering wheels? One of the things you'll find very quickly once you start getting into high-end hardware is you'll start buying wheels. I've been getting by on 2, but I'm always looking at what else I can add to my setup. Just one of the attractions of having a quick release setup is that you can swap out wheels to match whatever type of car you're racing. And beyond just the sort of hands-on experience, you're also getting a little bit of a richer experience because you might need a more detailed button box on your steering wheel for Formula One or for GT compared to road car racing.
You've got your $10,000 sim setup, and you've got your $3,000 monitors.
Of course, the whole thing's powered by our sponsor for the video, Origin PC, who sent over this sick gaming rig. We're going to be...
So it's always nice in these sorts of situations where they get free hardware from their sponsors. When this video came out, we're still in the middle of a graphics card and silicon shortage, and so that part is probably the meanest part of this video. I mean, it's already a no dollar spared setup, but now showing video cards and stuff that people can't get, it's always going to be a little bit of a tough sell. But hey, they obviously need a rig to go with the PC. Now, we're going to skip ahead through the sponsor message. Oh, it looks like it's only short. Let's just keep rolling.
Setting it up with an RTX 3090. I mean, you need it to power a setup like this. This is going to be triple 4K.
It's got a 3080 Ti already, but...
Right, so you already did a lot of the just sort of grunt work of setting up this extruded aluminum frame. This thing feels like a tank.
Now, that time-lapse is... it really is minimizing how long it takes to build one of these setups. My good friend Michael, who built a Track Racer TR80 setup, took him the best part of a day. These 80/20 setups are no joke. SimLabs do make very good ones, depending on availability. I think they're a lot easier to get in America than they are here in Australia. But, most of the big brand name rigs are decent.
It's tank-like in nature. What's the brand of these rails called?
Oh, they're made by Sparco. Like, they make seats.
I want to do this. What's first? Button caps and sticker set.
Sure.
No, I want to put together the wheel.
I'm just kind of worried you're going to screw that up.
I'm not going to screw it up.
Okay, so you can see that little pile of boxes he has there is actually... that's how one wheel will ship. Now, you do have some pre-built wheels, like this one here. The McLaren GT3 is a CSL range wheel. That's a budget wheel, and so it's an out-of-the-box solution. And you can see below it the WRC licensed wheel as well. Now, those wheels don't come with the QR1 by standard, but you can swap that on, which is essential if you're going to mate it to the more powerful bases up above the CSL DD. But this little pile of boxes here, he's got the one of the podium endurance wheels, and so you've got your quick release, you've got the hub, and you've got the button box, and then at the very bottom you've got the wheel itself. So it does come in 4 parts, and the whole idea is that you're actually buying modules that you can fit together and chop and change. But realistically, once you build it all together, you're probably not going to change it all that often.
There's so freaking many of them. What's this?
The part that attaches the wheel to the motor.
Wait a second. This is the motor for the wheel? How could that possibly...
So that's the DD2 box. I know from experience that's one heavy sucker. So yeah, his reaction is quite funny. He had no conception of how heavy that box really is.
be necessary?
This motor can draw 500 watts.
What?
Because it's roughly equivalent to a real F1 car.
It's got a cooling fan, Jake.
It even comes with like a little torque key that you have to put in to get the full
Do not lose the torque key.
torque. And there's an emergency stop button too. I think I broke it.
Do you want to touch my D-box?
Does anyone touch your D-box anymore?
Go for it, touch it.
These are our base amounts just for the monitors. I think there's something like 26 pieces per.
Wow! This is so much nicer than like the wheel on my car.
I'm not gonna lie, they sent us like a BMW wheel. I took it home.
Is this actual?
So I'm curious which BMW wheel they got sent there, because he mentions it, and Linus sort of giving him a look. It's either the Club Sport BMW wheel, which is really, really good and quite affordable, or he may be referring to the BMW GT3 wheel, which is very expensive, very desirable, and certainly I could understand why he snuck that one home. But yeah, it hasn't come up again, so we'll see.
Carbon fiber? I think it
probably is.
Pretty sure it is.
I think I'm gonna try to put the motor on.
So just backtracking a moment. So you're seeing the wheel there, which is the I think the R330 wheel. That can be substituted. In fact, when you buy different kits, they do bundles of different wheels, so you can get the D shape or you can get the round wheel here. You know, it just bolts on using a standard 6-bolt pattern, so you can substitute pretty much any wheel you like on that. The only constraint is the gaps between these buttons here on the endurance button module here. And so this is kind of your pain point, is this box here. But certainly getting all those controls is handy. It's a very similar control deck to what you have on the Formula wheel. So you have your left analog stick, that's a true analog stick. Right analog stick, which is a funky switch. So it's not an analog stick, sorry, it's a right stick, which is digital, 8 ways, with a twistable top. You also have 2 up and down toggles here, 2 rotary encoders, and then just standard buttons all around. And so with this, and of course you've got the OLED screen display here, which mirrors what's on the Fanatec DD2 base. So if you have the DD2 or DD1 base, the little screen readout there is the same as what you'd have on the wheel. And it's quite a handy little feature.
Pretty sure it is.
I think I'm gonna try to put the motor on. You want to help me with this?
Where's the hole?
Oh, Linus.
Gee.
It's in. Okay. Well, now I can just hold the shaft. Man, I feel like I'm at like some sort of futuristic dentist, and this is gonna clean my teeth.
So my one and only complaint about the Club Sport table clamp is the angle adjustment. It's pretty much, you can have it dead on or you can tilt it downwards. So people made wedges and stuff to tilt it upwards. I was contemplating some sort of setup like that, but then I went a different direction with the wheel stand DD.
I got this. I don't need no Steam King manual. Man, I did this out of order.
What? Wow.
Yeah, you forgot to put the paddles on.
Oh, now you want to play with my shaft. Oh, we have the carbon fiber knobs for it too.
Now, shifter is one of those things that's often a afterthought or last bit that you buy for a wheel setup. Anything like the off-the-shelf ones, like the Fanatec or the Thrustmaster shifters, are going to be decent. You can get away cheaper by using iLog or something like that, and you don't sacrifice a lot of quality. The advantage of going with one of the mass-produced ones like Fanatec or Thrustmaster is that you have got that ability to shift them into sequential or to H pattern mode. But you know, they're rare. Like for a lot of racing, most people tend to just use paddles. It's only really if you're doing a lot of historical racing
Wow.
or truck sim.
Oh, look at that. This adds horsepower, right, Linus? +5? Nice. This one feels weird. It's like heavy down here, but not up here. It kind of just feels hollow. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Oh, I think I cross-threaded it.
I'm still just scrolling through steering wheels.
I'm not paying you to.
It is a pretty awful website from Fanatec. No kidding there.
I might prefer the round knob. Oh, okay. They have like 100 steering wheels.
Let's see if I can get the rest of this sim built by the time he finishes that steering wheel.
I just want to know how paddles
Spoiler,
go on the thing.
he doesn't.
Oh, I'm so stupid.
Okay, I need boxes.
I've been trying to be like, oh, it doesn't come with the thing. I need to mount it. Oh, look, all the stuff I need. Ha 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 ha. Who would have thought it's in the box?
Oh, there's a picture on the back.
So be very careful with mounting sim hardware. Always do your research. It can be heartbreaking to get the gear into your place and realize you can't actually mount it.
Putting it in, right? I thought it was pulling out was the one you had the problem.
Turns out, my wife, she's efficient at lots of things.
So he's got the advanced paddle module there, which is what I've got on my Formula wheel. Probably one of the best add-ons. It's pretty expensive for what you get, but you've got a choice of carbon fiber shifter paddles. It's got a really tight clicky action. Like the magnets in it are super strong, and you've got the analog paddles down the bottom as well. A really good add-on.
You know, it occurs to me as I'm installing all of these big things onto here that we're still gonna have to lift it up to put the motion stuff on.
Should be fine.
All right, I guess I'll just keep going. Oh,
I told you.
wow.
After all this better be the wheel we use. I am done with the paddles. Nice.
Oh, buddy. I want to play with this knob some more.
Yeah, you do. I'm trying to figure out.
Proud of them for going for the double entendres there.
Are you still working on that steering wheel?
Oh my goodness, the fit and finish of this thing is just like. Oh wow. Okay.
So that's the pedal base.
So that's the infamous quick release 1. Fnatic has been talking about the quick release 2 for about a million years. Hopefully it comes out this year. Honestly, I haven't had the big problems that people have had with the quick release 1. Maybe it's because I've got a pretty new setup. But the fix that Fnatic have on the DD2 is you've got the torque ring, and I think let's see if I can find the close-up. You've got the torque ring on the hub. There it is. In here somewhere.
How could that possibly be necessary?
This motor can draw 500 watts.
What?
All right. So you've got the torque ring here. So this rubber bushing here, you tighten this just enough so that this rubber bushing is snug up against that. You click your wheel on, and then you tighten that up some more. And the rubber bushing basically pushes in against the inside of the wheel hub and holds it snug. Now there is a hole down the bottom where you can put a bolt in to secure it further, but I haven't found it to be necessary. I've switched back and forth between my Formula wheel and my Club Sport wheel just fine. That being said, the CSL DD has this hub without the rubber bushing, without the torque ring here, and so you're just relying on the clamping force in the quick release itself, which hasn't been enough. People have been getting some play and some movement in there, having to use the bolt. It's not a great solution. Ideally, what Fnatic should have done was had the quick release 2 ready for the CSL DD and the GT DD Pro, but it again on the podium it does just fine. So I can understand why they've been dragging their feet a little bit, but it would be nice if they get this stuff to market so that so we can play with it.
Fit and finish of this thing is just like. Oh wow. Okay.
So that's the pedal base, and
Right.
then with the
Okay, when you're shopping for your sim rigs, seeing these pedal bases here, like this is a nice thick deck with quite a lot of cutouts in there, which means that you don't need to buy a separate pedal plate if you're going to have something like Hoisingfelds or VRS or BJ Sim or any of the high-end sim pedals. Where you might need a base plate is either if you need to change the height or if you haven't got good cutaways on the base plate, so getting them dialed in just right is a problem, or if you're sort of using a self-built setup. But most of the prefab rigs will have a good pedal plate.
sliders.
That's super
So the
cool.
only part we have that's not super easily adjustable is the steering wheel and the shifter. I think we can get them at a point that they'll be pretty good for most people.
Let's face it, most of the people with one of these, I mean, they're probably the only one who use it.
Oh, whoa!
And that's very true. It's one of the nice things about certain sim rigs having at least a seat slider, because getting everything adjusted so it's comfortable for the main user is, the longest part of your setup time when you're making a sim rig. And, that's certainly an area that you kind of have to compromise if you're having multiple users on a rig. I know that my setup now I've got better pedals hard mounted in, it's going to be quite difficult to use for shorter people. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when I get one of my nephews or my wife on the rig and see how she if she's able to reach the pedals and what I can do to adjust there.
Oh, you can adjust the shift resistance.
I have absolutely no idea where these paddle cables go.
Why don't you check the manual?
Is it?
So those cables go inside the podium hub. I'm not sure how he thinks the paddles talk to the wheel, but yeah, there's a little, you thread them in before you bolt the paddles on.
Possible that these paddles are not compatible with this particular.
No, they definitely are. Have you considered the fact that it could just be user error? What are you trying to figure out? The paddles from that one? That's not going to help you. Just check the manual, man.
I can't find it. They have so many products with Club Sport in the name. It's just utterly unhelpful. I want to download drivers.
That's podium range.
Drilling templates and other. I really do not understand.
Podium advanced paddle module.
Doesn't even have.
Poor guy.
What? Why don't you try just taking the front of the wheel off?
Yeah, fine.
Oh,
Wow.
All right, so I'm really impressed with this part, and I found out apparently that there are shops, Micro Center in the United States, you can just walk in and buy these off the rack. These are Hoisingfeld pedals, Hoisingfeld Ultimate Pluses, which are pretty much the benchmark. For a long time, they were what I was targeting for my pedal upgrade this year. But I decided I'd save, half the money and go with VRSs instead. And once I've got dampers on them, apparently the difference is fairly minimal. But if money is no object, these are the pedals that the pros use. One of the big differences, or one of the main things with this, you've got a damper on here, and you've got an elastomer. And the elastomer provides a progressive resistance. So hang on, no, I'm talking about my backside here. Sorry, this one's hydraulic. So you've got the hydraulic damper and progressive resistance on this one. And it's designed to give you as much realistic feel as well. And it's about 130 kilograms of compression force on it. So I've got a 130 kilogram spring to chuck on my pedals here, but really that's a build up to it kind of thing, because even with a 60 kilogram spring on my pedals right now, it's a lot. And sure, having a much heavier spring gives you a stiffer pedal, which means you've got a wider dynamic range on your braking, basically meaning that you can sort of modulate even more. But yeah, it's a lot of force. But as you can see, these are beautifully built. They are designed to mount directly to a pedal plate, whether you use a built-in one on the rig or a custom pedal, or the specific custom pedal plate that Hoisingfeld sell. They're not the sort of pedals you'd use on the floor, because they'll go and skate off on you. But they are about as good as it gets.
Holy shit. Oh.
Like, even amongst all these other crazy bits of kit, these look nuts.
Definitely gnarly.
Found it.
So it's in the thing that I said it was in.
You didn't say it was in there. You said it was
I said
in
it was either
thing.
in this thing or this thing.
All right, cool. Well, that wasn't too bad. That didn't cost us that. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm driving in Daddy's car right now.
Boom, boom.
Oh, it can. Oh, it not just tilt. It can actually lower.
Yeah, it could go down here if you want.
That would be great. This sim will cost more than my car.
Oh, it's definitely worth more. This is like at least 20,000 US.
Let's unpack our Origin PC here. This is what's going to power the whole experience. Whew. Oh, wow. They did a really cool custom
So we'll go past the product placement bit. We're not interested in the PC.
Oh, that's a lot heavier. Jake, do you have any idea why we have...
I do like their just, yeeted approach, or at least his yeeted approach. The other bloke seems to be the adult in the room.
Oh, it fits the Chungus one too.
Barely. They say I need a tape measure, but they don't tell me how far to measure it.
It's usually to set some sort of like default middle ground, so I do have a tape measure though.
Right there, and you lock that boy into position. Okay, now this boy goes here. Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's building the monitor mounts right now.
Hardware, please? Sir? Okay, I have one of the upgrades, Jake.
One.
Here we go. Yay! They feel so good. Man, these are thick. This is where the entire front piece, which is holding up the monitors, hangs off of. Oh, shoot, is this not the right one again?
Come on, Linus, you had one job.
I've had two jobs. Hey, I got them. Oh, shoot. There we go. Oh.
So, doing all this by hand, fool's errand. Use a power driver for doing your threading. Like, as long as it's on a low torque setting, you'll be okay. But
You know what I wonder, Jake, is if we should
if
do
you
all the extra pieces
this much fitting and fastening by hand, you'll have claws by the next day, and you won't want to use this sim rig.
Oh, that makes sense.
Are you sure you use the right pieces? That doesn't look tall enough. No, I guess that's right. Yeah.
You take these two guys, and then you put your other extrusion on there, and it sticks out like that. And you can adjust the angle of the whole thing like this. Cool, huh?
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
So this part here, the D-box, is probably the most expensive part of the whole rig. Like, so far, as he was saying, adding everything up is already starting to stand up, but once you start adding motion to a sim rig, that's when you're starting to really see the price just run away from you.
See, we didn't quite get finished yesterday, but today Linus is off shooting an Intel upgrade for Nicole, I think, which means I get to prioritize how things go today. I already checked. This is the front.
Yeah. So these are the parts that will actually move your rig up and down, the actuators. You'll have one on each corner of the rig. Apparently you can get away with 3 if you're trying to keep costs down, but really once you're at this point, go nuts. And they'll all connect into a controller, which then connects to your computer.
So I think we have to take this off.
Yeah, so there's the controller box there.
I'm just going to leave this. And that one is front left. Okay, so we're correct. Oh, there's not a lot of thread into that. Like, okay, it's in. That's how much thread. It's just not very confidence-inspiring. So I was looking at the instruction manual for the D-box setup, and the wiring is super weird. So this shorty cable, which comes with both of the boxes, you go from the out into the end, and that's all it does. And then we need a connection between the two, so we go from the next port, which kind of makes sense, next into the in, and then the little black box has to plug into the in of the master. They gave us some included Ethernet cables that are kind of long, so I'm going to go grab some regular ones. Don't look at my butt mark.
Yeah, once you start dealing with motion platforms and direct drive hardware, you're getting very, very close to manufacturing equipment in terms of the, what controllers you're dealing with and all that. The whole reason direct drive motors exist is because people took servo motors out of industrial robots and the fine control that they're capable of, and put a steering wheel hub on it and a microcontroller.
Oh, cute, it goes back down. That's quite a bit of travel. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Your point of differentiation with the D-box stuff is usually going to be how much travel the actuators have. So going for even more movement is going to cost you even more money. You'll also have traction modeling in some motion rigs, which will basically swing the back end of the rig around. Again, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can add and how much you want to spend.
Definitely need to tighten that panel. Ooh, my heart is like... And now the clutch works, the brake works, the throttle works. In the software you have a lot of configuration, but I set it to 50 for now. I think that's pretty representative of ABS. Oh my gosh, I need to stop in a real car, so...
Yeah, the demonstrators are in the profile, the configurator, are always nonsense. They're just there to show you exactly how strong your wheel can go. Obviously, the first thing that should jump out to most people is that the angles on these screens are insane. Like, they should be forming a more open angle, because you're trying to give yourself a field of view, not just like the experience of looking at your left window. Because most of the time your attention is going to be focused forward, and so you want to be able to sort of pan across. So it should be more of an open fan, and like these big gaps between these monitors here, like you want them butted up nice and tight against each other. You can even buy from Asus and a few other brands like bezel invisibility kits. They're just a strip of Fresnel lens that basically blurs the two screen edges together. And it makes a really convincing effect. If you go look at Boosted Media's videos, you'll see those in action, and they work a treat. Because again, you don't need visual information everywhere. You do have things that obstruct your vision in a real car, like your A-pillars. And so, just having a little bit of dead space, whilst you might not be getting any information from that space, by blurring it, you're reinforcing the illusion that you're in a car. And so, yeah, they've gone to all this expense. They've made a very few expenses spared rig, and they've really botched their screen setup. It's quite sad.
Cool. Yeah, I moved the wheel back 3 inches.
And the pedals also
They're already moved like all the way back.
Okay, I'm ready.
I think you should move a tiny bit closer. You're gonna have to push the brake more than that.
More than that? Oh, I see. So the resistance is really strong, but you still gotta like...
Okay, so those are elastomers, and down there is the hydraulic. Again, I haven't looked too closely at the Heusinkfeld stuff, but the elastomers give you a really progressive resistance feel, and the hydraulic damper basically limits the speed and sort of how much it springs back as well. The combination of the two does give a more realistic feel. When we look at the back end of these pedals here, we can see that the accelerator has a sort of dual motion push rod on there, and the clutch also has a dual motion. Now this will be just a purely linear, just push down and let go type feel. The clutch will be a sort of clunk and engage, and then a clunk disengage type feel, just like on a real clutch.
We can define any amount of braking pressure you want. So this is what I mean. You can set. That's a lot of force. So we could say like maybe 40.
Holy crap, the pedal's easier to press. Sure.
I played on this for like 3 hours yesterday. Spicy. This wheel in high torque mode will knock your socks off. Oh, let me show you the motion first.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like an inch or something. That feels like a lot more than an inch and a half.
Yeah.
You don't need a huge amount of motion for the effect to work.
The actuators. Are you excited?
I have no idea. Hold on.
I'm glad to see that on this video, like on the last video, that a Assetto Corsa is getting most of the attention. What they really should be using those Assetto Corsa Competizione if they really want to get a feel for the feedback.
The sensation of speed is so...
And just chuck him straight into the deep end on the Nürburgring.
This is like the start of the last video.
Oh my god.
Oh, you definitely broke the car.
Yeah.
The wheel is stuck in the ground somehow. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, 1980s supercar on the Nürburgring. Crashing is the main thing you do in that car.
Come on, give her. Does it feel easier than the last time you tried this?
Oh, so much easier. Like, I still suck.
Well, you don't know the track at all.
Like, the sensation of speed is so different.
And you feel the bumps and stuff and weight transfer.
Oh, 100%. I'm able to get down the road, which is a big improvement over what was going on before. Yeah.
Okay, you can go. Keep gas, foot to the floor.
Now, it's interesting what he's saying. Good gear doesn't make you faster, it does make you more consistent, because what it does is give you information and feedback that is a lot closer to what you'd experience in the real world.
Watch your granny play Assetto Corsa.
You know what, Jake?
See, the shifter's not bad, eh?
But even the T300 that they demoed in the last one, that gives you a level of force that's not that far off from a road car with boosted steering. The benefit of going to something like the DD2, like they've got there, like I use, is you can go north of that to race car levels of feel. And once, most race cars sit in that region between 12 to 20 Newton meters of force in the steering wheel.
Oh, now it's over.
It also gives you the option to use heavier steering wheels too.
Yeah, it seems like kind of... Oh, hi. Oh.
Do you want to try the high torque?
I want to try the high torque now. Okay. Caution. Torque key inserted. Read the manual safety instructions before use.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm actually expecting this to be a lot easier. Oh.
I'm curious what level of force they're using.
You're gonna have to keep both hands.
Wow, is it
The torque key, without the torque key, you're capped at about 6 Newton meters.
Oh.
And now he's not turning enough.
Okay, yeah, this is
Different?
something. Okay. Whee!
Oh, you're not braking. Brake. You're
I
not
can't brake
braking.
on the grass, Jake.
You can brake a little bit.
I was
You're
going
definitely
kinda-
going faster than you were before.
Yeah, I'm being kind of cautious. Whoa! Yeah. Man, this is a workout. The overall feel of this thing is like uncomparable.
I feel like I am slower in this than I am on just like a normal wheel.
Yeah, the brakes. Oh my god.
That statement there is really important too. And you during your transition period from a lower force wheel to a higher force wheel, you will definitely experience that, because there are things you can do on a lower force wheel that you can't get away with on a higher force wheel. Being able to outmuscle the car and just point the wheels where you want is really, really useful. And if you're used to sim racing on a lower force wheel, that's kind of where your muscle memory will go. And you lose that feel of responding to the feedback through the wheel and through the car. Like, it's kind of a layer of information, but you can always outmuscle it. Whereas once you're adapting to real feedback, so either driving a real car or using a higher power sim rig, you do have to pay much closer attention to what the car actually wants to do. And that starts to give you a lot more useful feedback. And so whilst you might slow down a little bit initially because you're adjusting to the car telling you what to do, eventually you'll improve and get faster, because you then start to get into that territory of being able to use things like self-aligning torque, where the car is able to arrest its own oversteer through the force coming through the wheel, and you know, having that much faster and more powerful responsiveness of the wheel means that you are less muscling the car around and more working in synergy with the car. And you know, when you hear race drivers talk about the experience of using a racing car, that's much more authentic. Okay, there's meant to be more of a sort of conversation between you and the vehicle rather than you just telling it what to do. And that does result in better speed and better consistency.
I'm sweating because you're getting moved around a lot, and it's kind of hard to like stay on your line once things get a bit hairy.
I don't want to crash because I'm too scared of what that's gonna feel like. This thing is nutty. Okay, this is pretty fun. Oh man, now I feel it in the arms. That's like, oh.
It's a good workout. You definitely feel it for feel your first few usage of a direct drive wheel.
Whereas if we took it away though, maybe it would feel way less immersive. Hard to say. What's not hard to say is thanks. SimLab
The triples probably weren't that useful either because they didn't have them set up correctly, but also they're more useful for racing, for getting a sense of your awareness on the track. So, in summary, having watched all of that, I'm really pleased to see that Linus is doing this sort of stuff to shine a light on this corner of the sim market and really show people what the potential is. It is a little bit of a shame that there is less of an intermediate video. Like the last setup they showed with the Thrustmaster setup was quite good and a lot closer to what people will tend to have in their homes. Because for most people, a sim rig setup is about a bit of compromise. And, you know, showing what is potentially capable when you have no limits at all is really, really nice. But you can get a damn good experience without going quite so crazy. So, you know, hopefully they'll do some content where they look at, you know, your sort of bang for your buck setup where you're using something like the CSL DD or, you know, the SimMagic Alpha Mini, like a nice low-priced DD wheel with more sort of modest gear, and where they can talk now, they can actually do the comparison between the two. They can say, well, this is what it's like on the full-blown rig, and this is how close you can get the experience. Because once you've got a good bass and good pedals, you are about 80% of the way there. The rest of it is just fluff. It's getting the fundamental controls dialed in, which adds the most to the experience. But, you know, all in all, it's a fun video to watch. They, you know, it's good to see they're getting good advice and they're getting the right parts. And again, I know there's going to be people who argue and say, oh, I should have done this, should have done that. But for the most part, they're showcasing the right equipment and they're using the right sims, you know, like this isn't sitting in third person on Forza Motorsport 7. This is playing a proper racing sim with the racing sim hardware that most of us enthusiasts really like to use. So, yeah, I give this an A grade. I think they did their homework, they nailed it, and they've given a realistic picture of what you can achieve. It is, well, actually, I will knock a bit of a mark off because they screwed up their monitor placement. That is unforgivable. If you can have triples, use the triples properly. And if they'd done some racing, they would have noticed the difference immediately. But otherwise, it's a fun video, and again, it puts a bit of a spotlight on this crazy hobby of ours. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.